Kia ora and welcome to another Aotearoa Rugby Pod. We're back in the studio, we're out of the virtual world and we are absolutely loving being back to normal. Ross Karl here, joined by James Parsons in studio, and down in Queenstown in the bubble, Bryn Hall. Bryn Hall of the sudden switch play fame for the weekend, Jipper.
42-metre flat ball to create space for Will Jordan to then finish it off with Big Lester down the left flank. How good.
Goodness me. Tell me that was a set play. Tell me that you just didn't do that off the cuff.
It actually wasn't a set play. It was actually supposed to go the other way. It was supposed to be an 8-9 going right. But when that scrum was happening, Will was actually in the pocket and he actually told to do a switch play. And so I saw Boothie was a little bit high and I was like, oh, if I chuck that, he could go 60 metres and go into the sticks the other way. But just saw that Braden was open, and so I was like, if I get it over the top, we might be in. We go right. Geordie was actually on the far other side of the field, and then got it over him, and then Brady got past, draw pass, and then Will went through, and Leicester scores in the corner. So I'd love to say that it was all planned, fellas, but
well, that's even better. It's even better. It wasn't planned because Boothie was quite high, and you got the ball to in, or that's the hole that Will went through, is where he normally would have been in the inside man. So it worked a treat. Great heads up, eyes up footy, as they say.
Solid, really solid. If you missed it, we're talking about the Crusaders. Lester Whanganuku, who of course scored 3 tries in that game, and one of his tries was set up by our very own Crusader, Bryn Hall, against the Hurricanes. It was a really impressive performance considering some of the stuff the Hurricanes threw at you guys, because you had to hold them up. You had to put up with a bunch of pressure. They didn't quite get over, and you managed to get away with it in the end. It was a pretty solid performance. Now, we're going to have a fair bit of Crusaders in the show this week because we've got a special guest coming in very, very soon. Pablo Matera, the 78-time capped Pumas player. You know, I think he made his test debut in 2013. He's been around, this bloke. He's done it all. He's captained Argentina to win over the All Blacks. Now he's a Crusader. So we're going to him a little bit later. He's going to spin us some yarns about what it's like to be here, do huckers and take on Super Rugby, which is a lifelong dream of his. So hang on for that. But before we get into that, let's start with our quick fire round. Let's get going. Instead of labouring the points like we've been told that we do, we will get straight into this. Player of the opening round of Super Rugby Pacific for you, Jipper.
I have to get a few notable mentions on this, so I'll talk quick. Geordie Barrett, Will Jordan, Tom Wright, and I can't remember the other one, but I went with Peter Gus, so I'll call it. I just thought, avoiding the try debate, whether he can do that or not, I just think his all-round game, his effort with ball in hand and defence, he was huge.
I'm going to keep it to one man. I'm going to give it to Lester Whanganuku. He had 3 tries, had 14 carries, had 13 dominant carries, which is hard to do in this day and age, and had 33 metres post-contact. So it goes to my mate, Lester Whanganuku.
Did you see towards the end of the game, though, that contact between him and Geordie? Whoa, that was a big hit, man. Both of those heads rocked back. I was like, wow.
In that game, it honestly seemed like the amount of times that Geordie and Leicester had contact in that game seemed to be like half a dozen or a dozen, because every time there's a lot of contact between those boys, it was a stalemate. And so it just showed how difficult both those players are.
Yeah.
Man, how good was Geordie Barrett?
Geordie Barrett was very good, and he loves contact. He loves
that last
contact.
tackle definitely displayed it.
Okay, let's stick with Lester Whanganuku then. Is he an All Black this season?
If there's injuries, yes, but it's logjam in that wing spot.
Yeah. Bryn?
I think if he continues to keep playing like he did on the weekend, I think he will be definitely in contention. The fact that also he can play centre is big as well.
There is a lot of ability through to play wing centre. You know, you've got Rico Ioane, you've got all those kind of guys. He does bring a power game. I know Caleb Clark brings a bit of it, but he brings some serious power, doesn't he?
Yeah, I don't know if you'd carry both of them, but they're definitely the one probably going for one spot.
Yeah, and I suppose Caleb's got history there, so maybe that makes a difference.
I've already called him for top try scorer of the year, but Leicester's already got 3, so I might be wrong.
There were some fantastic Leicester tries on the weekend, not enough hooker tries.
No, that's all right. We got one on debut, Shiloh Klein. How good?
Yeah, very nice.
He did, yeah.
Okay, next up, RTS this weekend.
Yes.
The Blues versus the Hurricanes.
Whatever you ask, yes.
Try time for him in his first game.
Multiple. Double.
Multiple tries.
Yeah.
I don't think he scores a try.
Hey.
Mate, where's the hype, mate? You just took all the hype out of it.
No, what I mean, you know how hard it is.
No, I'm being facetious. I'm being
Hard as a
facetious.
quoll. And so I look forward to seeing how he goes next year. And we're really looking forward to see RTS how he goes.
He's not writing any fairy tales.
No.
He's already had his fairy tales. He's
I'm
had
a
5
realist,
of them.
mate.
Will Bryn Hall score this? Will Bryn Hall score this weekend? No.
No, I don't get the inside balls anymore, Jip. I don't get them anymore.
You follow Will Jordan, you will.
Okay, then. Why don't we go straight out of that then? That's enough quick fire. Because this can take us to another topic. We've talked about Geordie Barrett. We've talked about RTS. The All Black midfield, second 5. We're already talking All Blacks. It's not even round 2. The All Black midfield this year, we've heard Wayne Smith come out and say that he reckons it's between ALB and also Geordie Barrett. Is Roger Tuivasa-Sheck a chance of coming in there? And can you see Geordie Barrett shifting into the midfield internationally this season?
I'm not sure, but what I took out of Smithy's comments was pick one and stick with them. And I think David Harvilli's in that conversation as well. Like he did mention and reference that he was great form early, but then didn't quite continue that on for whatever reason, but it was a unique sort of travel year. But I think all 4 are good options, but I do take what he says is they need that cohesion of Nonu Smith. Do you know what I mean? And that time together. They just need to pick someone and then probably stick with it so that they can have that consistency of performance, or that, I suppose, being comfortable that they've got time to ply their trade rather than being week to week.
I think that's really important, Jip, because I think you look at the combination you talked about, Ma'a and Conrad, and the kind of continuity that they had with the years of being able to have that relationship. And we're actually not that far out from a World Cup, you know what I mean? So I think what Wayne did say, being able to pick that combination, whoever it is, being able to give them some opportunity and give them multiple tests to be able to figure it out. Because, like Jip, Ma'a Nonu and Conrad Smith, when they first started, they weren't the proven product. You know what I mean? It was only time of being able to play with each other. And they're fortunate to play the same club as well at the franchise level. But I think making that decision and then trusting them. For example, you look at Bundy Arki and Ringrose for Ireland. And the combination that they're building it at that level, you know what I mean? So they'll continue to stick with that, and I think it's going to be the same for the New Zealand team, and it'll be a combination of the 12 and the 13 who really wants to stand up and grab that jersey and stake their claim for that World Cup not too far away.
We talked a little about not using up too much energy to get down to the opponent's 22. The 50-22 was used multiple times on the weekend. I have to say, most of the times when it happened, I didn't even realise it happened until the little Sky Sport ticker came up that said it was a 50-22. So did you like it as an addition? I felt it was good.
Mate, I love the 50-22, all because it adds to the defence structures and the teams that work the hardest and have the ability to show different pitches. If you use the Hurricanes Crusaders game, like Will Jordan and Geordie Barrett, their backfield cover was exceptional on the weekend. Like, I don't think Will Jordan let one bounce once in that first half. And even in the second half, every time it bounced once, or Fergus Burke actually was back there a few times, and even if it bounced once, never twice. And it was the same. Will Jordan put a grubber through and Geordie Barrett came flying across and picked it up. And that's because of this 50-22, because if you're not having coverage back there and you think you're going to cover it with one man, this is the pendulum Bryn talks about, with the 2 wingers and the fullback going like that to make sure they cover that space. If you don't cover that for the 50-20, they'll take it. But if you do cover it for the 50-22, then it's on out wide. And then you can bring them up. Yeah. And then that's what I love about the 50-22 is it's creating opportunities to attack with the ball and with the boot. And I think it's actually going to be 9s that have the best opportunity to get these 50-22s. If you look at Jamison Gibson Park against the All Blacks, he got a beauty. I think it was Brad Weber on the weekend got one. And it's almost like if you see that winger up, Bryn, and you can see the fullbacks over there, you can just box kick it. Well, flat, one of those tops kicks. Yeah. And hopefully it rolls out. And even if it doesn't, you're going to get a good chase line and you'll catch them in their 22.
I definitely find that 50-22 has been a great addition because what it does do, you've got to be on so much, not just in the front field but the back field as well. And so what you're talking about, Jip, traditionally a lot of the fullbacks are pretty much covering the whole field now. And so with this 50-22 rule, it's really, really hard. So some teams even now are dropping 2 back, having a 10 and a 15 back, taking away that 50-22, but bringing back to your point, getting their short in the front field. So there's only 2 on each side, so you've got the ability to be able to play with the ball in hand and make 20-30 metres because of what the pitches that you've seen. So I think adapting and seeing what's in front of you is probably going to be the biggest thing, and the team that can do that the best of seeing, okay, there's 2 in the backfield, or there's 1 high, or there's 1 in a different position, and we take wherever the space is. The team that has the best ability to do that, I think, going to make massive plays in and around that. And like you said, Jip, the Nines have a really good play on that. And even if you see continually week to week, Brad Weber or whoever it is, Nuggy puts one in the corner, okay, then we'll send him that way, and then we'll go back the other way. Play it from the 8. They've got such great skill sets. Go to the left-hand side, and you put it in that left-hand side corner. So the variety that they have in that 50-22, it's really hard. I know defensively, we've been talking about a lot how hard it is to defend. So pick your poison. Do you want to be able to go 50-22 to have a set piece more, or do you want to give up back a little bit more passive defence to then be able to take away that 50-22?
And as promised, we're going to go now to our special guest, 78 Test Puma, Pablo Matera, not just any old player. This is the man who captained the Pumas to beating the All Blacks. Obviously played a huge career. Leicester, Stade Francais, the Juarez, now a Crusader, one of the great loose forwards of world rugby. Thank you very much. Pablo, how are you doing? How are you enjoying Queenstown?
Yeah, I'm loving it down here. I really wanted to explore a little in New Zealand. So I'm glad that we came here and with the whole team for a rugby as well, so really enjoying it at the moment, yeah.
Bryn was telling us you're pretty strong at training. He's been taken out a few times. Do you love wiping out a halfback at training? Is that one of the goals when you go into a Crusaders camp?
No, that's not my thing. He's lying. Just take it easy.
He's too modest. He's too modest, Les. He's too modest. He's an absolute beast. So I've been many a time. So he's just been modest.
Has it been much different for you? If you go from, say, Juarez or Leicester or Stade Francais or Pumas training, how much different is it working in that Crusaders environment?
Well, to be honest, rugby-wise, it's quite similar, like how we train the units, scrum, line-out. But for me, the big challenge is the rhythm you guys put, not just to the rugby, but also like to the way you train, how fast the transitions are, and I think that's my biggest challenge at the moment, to get used to the New Zealand rugby rhythm. It's obviously the rugby I love and the rugby I enjoy playing the most, but it's also tough and physical. So yeah, it's a big challenge for this season.
You've obviously played Super Rugby for the Jaguares, but playing a New Zealand derby, being part of a New Zealand team, was that a big lift?
Yeah, for sure. I think that here, like mindset-wise, is like preparing a test match every weekend. Every week is a really tough game. The opponents are really big teams. So yeah, that's how it feels. A week of preparation here, it feels like a test match every weekend. So yeah, quite big.
Obviously, Pablo, we could see you every single day, and it was really an emotional moment for you on the weekend. You spoke after the game of what it felt like to put on the jersey after the first time, and you said it was a dream of yours to us after the game. I want to delve in a little bit more what it really meant for you to be able to put that Crusader jersey on, going through the whole pre-season process, then actually finally being able to put on that jersey.
For any player in Argentina, like it was impossible to play for New Zealand rugby. We always follow New Zealand rugby, and as young kids, we follow Super Rugby, we follow the All Blacks. Obviously, we want to play for our country, and that's like the biggest thing ever. But we didn't know that if playing for a New Zealand team was something that could be achievable. And once that we started playing with the Jaguars, the Super Rugby, I thought that I had made that dream come true. I was not able to play New Zealand rugby, but at least I was playing against them. I was playing the same competition at the same level. So that was something really, really big. And I said, like, okay, I made my dream come true. And then making some research, I started saying, like, oh, well, it's not impossible to go and play for New Zealand. It's quite difficult, to be honest. It's hard. There was a lot of things that happen and make me have an opportunity, make the possibility of being here. But yeah, not even in the back of my head was a chance of playing in New Zealand, and obviously in the Crusader was like just not something that I thought it was possible. So I I signed my contract with the Crusaders in May, and since May a lot of things happened, like the virus, the MIQ, the visa, so I never thought, I never wanted to like really be happy and say like, yeah, it's gonna happen, until I was really here. So yeah, it's been a long road, and once I got to New Zealand, me and my family, like, we didn't even care about like if we had to do MIQ 7 days, 10 days, or whatever, we just were so happy to be here, and that things weren't really happening. And once I started preseason, started running around the boys, starting to learn the calls, starting to really enjoy the rugby. Like, yeah, it's been a long journey, and even though I just played one game, I've been dreaming about this like long time ago.
Obviously, being in New Zealand and our team doing our haka, do you just want to go through how your emotions were and how much practice you did for the haka when all the All Black boys came back?
Well, that was really incredible. Like, I really wanted to do it. I really wanted to do it the right way. So, yeah, once Bryn sent the video in to all the players, like where they can learn it and practice it. I was practicing it at home with my son. My son was looking at me like, "What are you doing?" And, yeah, we were just I was just doing it by myself at home, and I said like, I really need to do it right. Like, this is something powerful, and once we do it all together, like even when we were like practicing, you can feel something big, like all the energy that provokes. It's really something awesome. Like once I was coming here, and I told all my friends and my family and stuff. One of the first things they asked me was like, "Are you going to do the haka or not?" And I was like, "I don't know. I don't know if I have to do it. If maybe I won't do it. Just the guys that are from New Zealand will do it. I really know how it works." But I'm so happy. I was so happy to be part of that. To have to learn it now, to know it. Like, I would never forget it, to be honest. Like, that's something that I would take with me my whole life.
And I suppose you sort of touched on it before. The reason you came down here is to be the best player possible, and a lot of that comes down to coaching and the people you surround yourself. How have you found the style of Scott Robinson, Jace Ryan? Have you felt a big impact in the short time you've been here?
Yeah, for sure. It's quite different to everything that I was used to it in Argentina. They are quite really emotional, and they think a lot about the mindset and putting the player in the right spot mindset wise. But I was impressed as how they put the detail, like how important every detail is. Something like that can be like very similar, like maybe making a pass or just making a lift on a line now, something that you wouldn't even watch yourself doing it, because you know you can do it, but there's a lot you can improve. Like in the small things you can improve, and every day here is a challenge. Every day they are showing you things where you can improve, where you can take your game. So yeah, it's a big privilege to be here, and I can't imagine how much they work to be able to sit with every player and take some time to help them improve their game and become a better player. So yeah, I'm quite grateful for that.
So are those the places that you've improved on, those kind of ball handling skills and the lifting? Is there anywhere else where they've helped you up your game and reach levels that you really want to get to?
Well, to be honest, it's a lot. I've been learning a lot. Like, I could just speak about the last game and things that I can improve in the last game, like my binding in the scrum. Like when we are like 10 meters from our in goal, maybe having a shorter bind that can make you get off of the scrum to the defense line faster, and that's maybe just a simple thing that I wouldn't even notice. I just played one game, and this is just a simple example, but there's a lot of things that they've been telling me since day one, and I've been improving, and I've been putting into my game. So yeah, it's quite impressive the way they see rugby and how they help you to become better.
Obviously, your connection with the Juarez, the Jaguars, and the Crusaders is kind of an interesting one. You know, you played that 2019 final. You guys had such a wonderful year, and now you're playing for the team that you went up against in that final. Is that a bit of a strange feeling to know that, you know, this is the team that you're always looking to knock off, and now you're one of them?
Yeah, it's strange. There was one of the first days we arrived to Christchurch. We were just exploring around, and me, my wife, and my kid went to the stadium, not inside, but just drive through and park. And it was a really emotional moment because that was like one of the biggest games in my life, like the most meaningful games in my life. And I was there parking outside, and now I was part of that team. So I was thinking, like, if you would ask me like 2 years ago when I was here playing the final, like, okay, in 2 years you're gonna be here again with another opportunity, trying to get into another final, like, it's just unbelievable, you know. For me, it's just like, I can't believe I'm so grateful. But yeah, it was obviously it was an incredible year for us. Like, we didn't expect nothing. We didn't expect to be in the final. We just put a lot of hard work, and we really made it. And obviously we wanted to win. And when I was here, this is another story, but I used to write in a book all the game plan and the set piece with Argentina. But when I arrived here, there was so much information, and I saw that everyone writing their iPads. So I said, oh, maybe I need to come with my iPad, because I have to go through information and go back to the last day and come back, because there was a lot of things to write. And I was writing in my notes, and I found a letter from that I wrote it in the plane when I was flying to play against the Crusaders, the final. And it brought me to that moment. Like, it was such an important game. Like, it was going to be my last game with the Jaguars, because after that I was going to play in France for the Stade Français. So that was my last game with the Jaguars, playing a Super Rugby final against the best team in the competition. Like, I couldn't ask for anything else. It was really an incredible opportunity, like an incredible opportunity for Argentina rugby, and maybe the biggest opportunity I ever had. I'm sad we didn't win, but it was still a lot of learning, and I'm still glad that I had such a big opportunity, and now being back here, being able to chase again the chance to play a Super Rugby final. So it's just unbelievable. Yeah.
Those moments can change your life, though, can't they? Because there's a good chance that the way that you played in that final affected the way that Scott Robertson thought about you, and affected the way that you ended up at the Crusaders. You know, it all ties together, doesn't it?
Yeah, to be honest, yeah. Like, I think, like, I look backwards and I see, like, everything that happens put me in this position right now. Put me here in New Zealand playing Super Rugby for the Crusaders. So yeah, I'm really happy to where it brought me, and looking forward to see, like, what's gonna happen next. Like, really living it day by day, trying to take the most of this opportunity and learn the most as possible. But looking forward to the future, to the next games.
Now, I'm going to go there because you spoke about that season and how good it was for the Jaguares, but it obviously flowed on to an opportunity where you guys faced the All Blacks and won for the first time. You speak about big occasions and emotional moments. That must be huge in your career.
Yeah, that was huge, really. Like, we know at some point we were going to beat the All Blacks. Just we didn't know when, and I didn't know if I was going to be there. Like, there's so many players that came before me and tried to beat the All Blacks, and we're so close. Like, we tied once 2020, and I think Scott Razor scored a try in the last minute or in the minute 82, and we tied the game, and that was like the best result we got against the All Blacks. So we say, like, and every time we prepare a game against the All Blacks, we say maybe this is gonna be the day. So we're just gonna go there, put our best, trying to do everything perfect, and maybe this is gonna be the day. So there was a lot of times, like, maybe I was not fit enough to play, but I was just saying, like, I need to play this game. Maybe this is gonna be the time. And maybe when it was less expected, because we went through the COVID and we hadn't been together training for months and playing rugby for months. When it was less expected and we didn't have any pressure of result or anything, things just happen, and we get our first victory. So yeah, it was something really big, and I'm really grateful to be able to be part of the team that finally beat the All Blacks.
Just a question, Pablo. Obviously, with being with Argentina and having that result against the All Blacks, and then probably last year, probably not reaching those powers that you did the year before. What do you think for Argentinian rugby you need to do as a nation to be able to be more consistent, especially with the Jaguares not being around? What do you think yourself being in that environment you guys need to do to be able to get back to where you want to be?
I think that Argentina, and something that I learned here a lot, and I see every day, is how you guys think about everything is a process. Everything is a process. Things don't happen from one day to another. Like, everything is a process. You need to put hard work. You need to do repetition. You need to build good habits. You need to work hard. You need to try to improve every day, and that's something that maybe is not in our. And I'm talking like about everything in Argentina. It's not like in our culture, and it's something we need to work on. We haven't been like us. And talking just about rugby, like, we haven't been stable, or maybe in the last years. The first time we were really stable was when we were playing Super Rugby, because we played for 4 years and we played the same competition with the more or less the same team for 4 years. So, and it was really a process, because we started the competition really struggling. We didn't even know what kind of facilities we needed, or if we needed how many physios, or how many doctors, or how many conditioning trainers. We didn't know anything. We didn't even have a gym the first year. So it was all learning from one year to another, and every year we got better results. From first year to the fourth year that we finally made the final, every year we made improvements, but it was all a process, all about learning, all about getting better. And I think that's the way we need to approach things now. Like, I know now we the last 3 World Cups, maybe we changed coaches 1 year and a half or 2 years before a World Cup, and it's hard to really have a process with that, and I don't want to go too deep into it, but I think that in Argentina, our mindset should be more about process, about learning, about becoming better every day, and not just trying to beat the All Blacks one time, to have a perfect game one time and beat the All Blacks. We need to trying to become better from the last game, and better from the last game, and step by step. And there's going to be a time where we're going to be a better team, and we're going to be able to beat the biggest teams regularly. But we need to, we need to work on that process, and that's something that I really enjoy about being here. Like, everything here, it's about process and becoming better, and learning from past experience. So yeah, it's something that I'm enjoying a lot.
Forgive me for this question then. Considering what you've said about process and the 4 years that the Jaguares were around, and the way that obviously helped the national team as well, does it break your heart that team no longer exists?
Yeah, it really did, because I know that there's a lot of people, and also a lot of players, and also me, that we put a lot of effort into it, and it would be great, like if after all of that effort there was still something happening, or if everything that we did was for something. Like you could, now that we did, Jaguars is not in the competition. Every player is playing in different tournaments. We don't even are playing like the same plan or doing the same things we did in Jaguars. It's like everything just from one day to another, boom, explode, is lost. And I think it's a big challenge. One word that comes to my head is like resilience. I think it's time to start again, start building those process all together. Even though things are how it are now, even though everyone is playing a different competition, we still have to start building our book. How are we gonna play? How are we gonna play when we get together? Everyone in the same page. It's hard to put everyone in the same page when we are only getting together a week before a game. So we're just get together on a Monday, and on a Saturday we have a game, and we need to start talking about rugby. But there's a lot of things outside rugby, like a lot of details of how we do things. It's not just, okay, we're gonna do these 3 line outs and these 3 set piece, and let's go and try and beat them. Like I think there's a lot more to do to be really a team that can expect to win every weekend. I think there's a lot more that it needs to be done.
That's difficult, especially when you think about the Argentine system where it's amateur and then it's an international. You guys are similar to most, maybe to the Pacific Island teams in that way, where there is no step in between, is there? There's just chasing a career for yourself, and the country hasn't provided anything in between that amateur and that professional level. It must be an incredible challenge to try to overcome to be consistent.
Yeah, it's really a big challenge, but it's really easy or it's the easiest to see all the things that we don't have, or all the structure that we don't have, or the competition. But I think that we need to start focusing on what we really have and start building from there. Even though if we have to start building from 0 or 1 or 2 or really low, just start building from there, but keep those steps, make them strong so that we can do another step and another step. But doing like little step but strong step, I think that's how our mindset needs to be. Maybe it's gonna take some years, but it's gonna take what it's gonna take. But at some point we're gonna have to do it, because I really believe that the way of becoming better and more successful is by the process. So better start now.
Fair enough. Why don't we get this a little bit positive? It's been a bit deep over the last little bit. Favourite player to go up against of all time? Who's your favourite opponent out of any flanker in the world?
To go up against Vermeulen, number 8, South Africa. Wow, yeah. I think he's a bit different. He's so strong in the contact, so physical. Like, I think now he might be like 33, 34, and he's still like a really strong player.
You've been up against him a few times, I take it?
Yeah. I remember one game when we played the Stormers at Newland and Hayden Triggs put one on his snout. That's probably the only time I've seen him go down. But outside of that, I mean, you speak of his age and his performance. He was the guy that got the turnover that allowed South Africa to get that come from behind victory against the All Blacks. So he's certainly still performing, and he's been around the globe. Look, my personal experience, and the hooker, like for me as a Safa as well, Bismarck du Plessis. When I was really young, I obviously looked up to him, and when I got the chance to play him, it was definitely formidable on the field, but they're a great family off it as well.
I've never seen a chest that big in my life. Like, here's the biggest chest.
Yeah, I looked like a schoolboy when I came in against him in my first scrum, I can tell you that for free.
Brennan, what about you, mate?
For me, it's obviously a little bit different. Probably not more so the context outside of it, but Ferry du Preez was massive for me growing up. I think Brendan Cowan, big advocate for me. Well, big for me, sorry, when I was growing up in New Zealand. But I watched Ferry du Preez growing up as a kid, and more so his gamemanship and the way that he ran a game, especially in that 2007 World Cup. He was at the focal point of that South African team, and especially in that Bulls time when they went back in the Super Rugby Championship with him at Stain, running Cutter 9 and 10. So when I actually got a chance to play against him as well, it was I was in awe at that moment and couldn't get the signature from him because I was a little bit too scared. But probably the through degree the way that he how he operated.
He kind of set a benchmark, didn't he, for number 9s running the game? Like when it was always considered that the 9 was the guy who gave it to the 10. Sort
of similar to Nick White now, Bryn?
Yeah, he was, but I think he had a really good ability to win. You talk about big moments in games of big time players through the career. Did that in the big games, whether that be a World Cup final, semi-final, or final for the Bulls, or whatever team he was part of. He always seemed to be the guy that was in and around making the biggest decisions, the biggest outcomes in games, and that's the biggest thing with big time players. The big games, they are the focal point of it. So for me, through the career, he was a great halfback, and I was very lucky to watch him when he played.
Pablo, what about the player that you based your game on? Was there a guy you watched growing up and you were like, that is who I'm going to be like?
Not one that I say like I want to be exactly like him, but there was a couple. Pierre Spice from South Africa, he was a guy that I really look into it, the way he played rugby. He came from the winger, coming to play as a flanker or number 8. Also, Jerry Collins, that guy was so tough. Like, I wanted to be, that's the one I wanted to be just like him. He was tough, physical, he could carry the ball, he could play 6'8". That was one of the guys I watched the most. There was also a New Zealand player, Isaac Ross. He was big, he was very... had a lot of skills as well, so I watched him a lot. There was a couple, to be honest, there were quite a couple. Obviously, Richie McCaw, he was more or less like the perfect player. He did everything at such a good level, like even lineouts. He was good at lineouts, even though he was not the main option. He was good at lineouts. He was good at everything. So, there's quite a few that I've been watching and trying to be a similar in aspects of their game.
So were you a bit of a codehead as a kid? Would you sit down in the morning or whenever the games are on in Argentina and you just watch everything and take in all of these games that were being played?
Yeah, we try to watch a lot of Super Rugby, and obviously we played a lot of PlayStation, and there you have like the Crusaders, or you pick or the Crusaders or the Chiefs, and obviously New Zealand, England, or maybe South Africa, and start watching the players. There was some players that had like a star above them, and those are the kind of players that you watch them, and in Argentina we watch a lot of rugby, to be honest. We still watch a lot of rugby now, even though the Jaguares are not in the competition. Like, there's a lot of rugby in the TV, so that's kind of what we did in weekends. It was also good that it was really early, so maybe when I was young, you wake up really early and you got these New Zealand games going on, and it was quite incredible.
That's awesome. Bryn, do the players still play a lot of rugby on the PlayStation on tour? Like, or is it FIFA and all these other games? Do they play rugby at all and like play with themselves or play with opponents?
I just don't think the rugby games have really got anything on that Rugby 08. I think the graphics and how they played and had that set up, Rugby 08 was the go. And that's what obviously Pablo's talked about with the stars and that, but no, not more so. No, I just don't think they've got it right, and so not many of the boys play the rugby games. I think some of them guys are a little bit vain. I won't bring names into it, but that do like to play as themselves. And with the new technology, the new games that are being played, but these young kids these days, man, they're into Fortnite, COD, NBA, 2K, and all that kind of stuff, and that's just way past me now. So maybe Pablo might have a little more info on that. I'm well over that now.
Listen to this guy, the veteran, eh?
Oh, mate,
kids.
Can't believe these young kids.
Yeah.
It's like, mate, I remember a few years back we had Jonah Loma Rugby in the team room for Harbour, and you were right in the mixer.
Oh, that's when I was a young Thundercat, Jipper.
Oh, yeah. It was only 2 years ago, but yeah.
No, the last good PlayStation rugby game was the Rugby 2008. After that,
nothing.
There was nothing like that. No, to be honest, I played some rugby in the PlayStation on this tour, and it's not good.
This is the way that we need to make our money. The Aotearoa Rugby Pod, PlayStation, Xbox game.
I think Rugby 08 was EA Sports too. EA Sports need to do it.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, sports.
It's in the game.
Yeah.
It's in the game. Nice.
It's in the game.
Hey, before we leave you, Pablo, tell us a little about settling into Christchurch. I hear that there's a pretty strong Argentine community down there. Were they knocking on the door and delivering food? Like, what's it been like settling in there with the local Argentine community?
Well, to be honest, when we moved from Paris to Christchurch, the only time I've been in Christchurch was when we played against it was twice that we played against the Crusaders here. And we didn't do much. We just stayed in a hotel in the city center, and we always played like near June or May, so it was always cold. So I told I've been telling my wife before arriving, like, hey, you need to know that we are going to a very little town. There's not gonna be a lot of things to do like in Paris, but we're gonna have a lot of fun and we're gonna enjoy it. And when I arrived here and started exploring, I realized it's a lot bigger than what I thought, and there's a lot of things to do, and it's a lovely place. Like, you got a lot of nature, you got a lot of open space, parks, you got the beach, you got the mountains. So yeah, I was lucky. I arrived like a month before the preseason started, so I was able to explore a lot and to do a lot of activities like mountain biking, beating the surfboard. I really enjoyed my time a lot, and my wife also, and my son, he's going to preschool now and making friends and starting to talk a little bit of English too, some Kiwi accent. So yeah, it's been it's given me a lot more than what I expected, and we are really loving it here in Christchurch. And also, I'm amazed by how many Argentinians are here. Like, I don't even know how they made to stay here. I thought there were some rules, but I don't want to go too deep into that. But it was really, yeah, it was incredible. Like, I think I'm on a Facebook page that is like Argentinians in Christchurch, and we are like thousands. I don't know how many we are. We must be like 2,000 or 3,000, and yeah, you can find anything there, like anything. If you need help with whatever, you can have it there. And there are also like Argentinian restaurants in Christchurch. I've been there. They sent me some Argentinian meat as well. I received an Argentinian barbecue from one Argentinian guy, a really nice guy as well. So yeah, we are lots. We are lots of Argentinian in Christchurch. I haven't met all of them. They tried to invite me and make me part of a football team, a soccer team. And they said me, we played on Mondays. And I said, no, on Mondays I have to train. I can't play soccer. But they have a team that they are playing football, and it's all Argentinians. So I said, how many of us are here? This is unbelievable. Yeah, so I'm really impressed by how many. I just hope that at some point they can come and watch a game, because I know they're going to be loudy and there are going to be lots of them, because yeah, it's really big for Argentina that I'm playing here Super Rugby, and also obviously for the Argentinian and Latino community that lives in New Zealand and in Christchurch. So yeah.
So you don't want to be telling your teammates you've had an asado barbecue delivered. Bryn's going to be around there every week.
Yeah, we're gonna once we're back, I'm gonna make sure I make a proper Argentinian asado to show the guys.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Hey, Bryn, you're bringing them.
Just the forwards, Bryn. Just the forwards, mate.
Oh, don't worry, mate. I'm half forward, half back, mate. So I'll be there, mate.
No one calls them the half forward.
There's a reason for that. Augie Pulu's a half forward. That's about it.
Yeah.
Well, Pablo, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time. All the best for the rest of the season with the Crusaders, and also when I suppose Rugby Championship comes around, all the best with that as well. You know, are we hoping that you don't get that next one against the All Blacks? Probably.
Well, us three are probably.
Probably, but all the best with it all the same.
Okay, guys, thank you very much. I really enjoyed the chat and have a great time. So thank you very much.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Now, one of the other major pieces of news this week in the rugby world is where on earth the Springboks are going to end up in 2025. Chipper, do you see them leaving the Rugby Championship?
Well, personally, I hope not, because of the history we have, and I suppose the best example of it is in our chat talking about our most feared opponent, or the person that we enjoyed coming up against the most, were all Springboks or South African Super Rugby players. So I think that shows the level of admiration and respect we have for their brand of footy, and I believe it's speculation at this stage. So my hope will be that they remain in the Rugby Championship.
Will it be a major problem for Southern Hemisphere rugby? I mean, can they carry on and still be good without the Springboks involved if they go to the Six Nations?
I think it'll be a massive loss for us. I think you even talk about the rivalry and the kind of history that we've had with Springboks over the years. It's a massive game for us. You think of them, they're our foe. When we talk about Test rugby when it comes to the All Blacks, but I think if you look at the Six Nations at the moment, there's probably 5 teams that can win that competition. Obviously Italy are struggling a little bit, but you look at the level of the consistency of Test matches in the Six Nations that you're playing every single week. It's a doozy of a game, and there's a high level about it. And if we lose the Springboks, unfortunately, we're going to lose that kind of credibility and lose that ability to play against high tier nations and playing at that intensity level. I think we need to be able to play consistently to evolve and to get better as a nation. Like I said, look at the Six Nations at the moment. You'd like to think that probably that's probably where the best rugby is being played at the moment in the Six Nations, just through how they're playing at the moment. And you talk of the European tour last year with how successful they were against the Southern Hemisphere team. So I think it'll be massively tough for us if we lose them. And like Chip said, I hope it's just speculation and they continue to be in the Rugby Championship moving forward, not just for the short term but the long term as well.
Can you understand why South Africa might do this?
Well, I suppose the time zone thing, travel, all those sorts of factors. Yeah, I suppose money does play a part into it. Of course, it is a business these days. So, but I hope it. I just hope it doesn't. I don't know if it is or it isn't, or the reasons they're looking at it. I'm not too sure, but I'll be devastated. But it would open up, glass half full, them to tour in that June series and have the old school three match test matches, or there potentially might be opportunity for us to go the other way. I don't know.
Yeah, would that be possible? I mean, we haven't got a global season in place yet, and we've
got Ireland coming this series. So I'm just saying, if they're joining the Six Nations, there's no reason, because if they're not part of the Rugby Championship, there's no reason that they could be. But it won't be every year, will it?
No, but I suppose the Irish have that advantage of most of their players play at home, whereas the Springboks have got players who are going to be playing all over the place. So whether they can get players down here the way we see with the French, when they come down in June and for the first week or so, it's not the French team, it's the B team. And I just worry that without a global calendar, this will leave us without playing a decent Springboks team outside of World Cups.
Bring on the global calendar then.
Bring on the global calendar, because it's a problem.
Look, that's exactly it. You've got to bring on the global calendar so we can be able to have those kind of test matches. And so I think, like we've said, hopefully this is speculation and they continue to stay here. But again, if that does happen, you've got to be able to adapt and be able to get, how do we get meaningful test matches?
Well, there's been some really good stuff in the Six Nations without them. This weekend we've got Scotland, France, England, Wales and Ireland, Italy. It is a close tournament. It could go any way after 2 rounds. You guys are put together as part of RugbyPass's dream team, your dream teams. Let's start looking at your Six Nations dream teams, in particular a couple of places. What do you see as the dream 9-10 combination? And there are a lot of options there coming out of the Six Nations.
I found this hard because I think Jamison Gibson Park's playing some great footy, but the reason why I went with DuPont and Intermark is purely for that try that was set up for DuPont against the Irish, and I'm going to go back to my NRL analogy of Damien Cook and Walker. Is it Walker? No, Cody Walker, yeah. And how they run off each other and they can read that game and they punch the gap flat. They know when to hold their feet. was no different with these guys. Is Intermark really just knows when to inject, and DuPont has that ability to get that ball, and then it's like they're in synergy with each other, and I just see them on the back of what their forwards are doing are just sort of unmatched at the moment, really, in terms of that complete package at 9 and 10.
Yeah, I've gone exactly the same, Jip. I've gone Intermark and DuPont. You know how much of an advocate I am for DuPont, and where he's taken the halfback game. It's tremendous. I look forward to seeing his developments, not just this year, but coming into the World Cup, especially in France. But I think Jamison, yeah, like you said, I think he's a guy that's come on leaps and bounds in probably the last 12 months. And yeah, look at that All Black test and how influential he was in that game. And then I think even in the first 2 matches, he's been probably the DNA of how successful Ireland have been. Because you talk about lightning football, Jamo's been able to do that at a high level. So it's probably taken their Ireland game, talk about their phase play shape and their attack. It comes on the back of Jamison, his ability to be able to play lightning football and be able to snipe in and around those hard defenders like he did against France where he scores that try. So I've gone to Pont and Intermark, but I think Jamison's definitely in that conversation.
Smith was in my thinking as well, mate. Do you agree? Like I actually think he's had a really good start. And the only reason I'm not talking about Finn Russell is probably the yellow card. Outside of that, he's been pretty good as well. But because they had that big win against England, then they lost to Wales, probably that, and England obviously losing to Scotland. But I think Marcus Smith is definitely in the conversation. But man, I really rate Intermark. I think he is.
Yep.
Yeah. It's just hard to separate those two. You couldn't pick one without the other.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like if you're picking a dream team, you almost need, a Gibson Park and Sexton, that sort of idea. So that's why I went with it.
Jipper, I like how you said that, mate, because that goes in perfectly for my 1, 2, 3, mate. How good are the Ireland 1, 2, and 3?
Oh, mate. It's just they put their names in there themselves, don't they? I mean, I'm a big Furlong. I reckon Tag Furlong is one of the best players in the world at the moment. Honestly, he is just unbelievable. Like his skill set, his core roles, man. Simple things. They're simple things done so well, but man, they're not easy to do. Not easy to do.
Yeah, I think their decision making and their skill set around. We talk around the face play shape and the ability of having tip balls or hook balls out the back. Like it's got a 16 or 10. At the line, their decision making of who they're hitting and where that ball's going to, every single time it's in the right place at the right time. It's leading really well for their face play attack on, and we talk about it consistently. Every single time they seem to have their face play shape, they're asking questions and they're making the right decision, which is really hard for defences at the moment to be able to consistently make good decisions defensively.
But in that phase play, it's them staying square down the field. Like Tadhg Furlong's hips are square, and every time when he gives a pass, he's square. Even if he goes out the back to the 10, he's square. He never, so as a defender, if my hips are square, you're not drifting out there into someone else's tackle zone. You're not drifting into your forward tip player's hole. You're staying square. You're locking everyone. Everyone runs their role. I tell you who did it really well on the weekend was Ollie Jaeger. Ollie Jaeger did it really well. Sam Whitelock ran a beautiful line into the hole. Committed, I think it was Asafa Moore, and Flanders was left out. They went to Will Jordan, and that's when Leicester scored his first try. It's exactly like that. And it's so much harder than to run square and hold your line so it creates space for others. But Furlong just does it time and time again.
I thought Brodie did it as well with that flick out the back. He had 2 defenders come at him because he was going straight.
Yeah, that was just freak.
Blew his
skill. I'm talking more basic.
That's why he gets paid. Yeah. That's why he gets paid big. That's why Brodie gets paid the big bucks.
It reminded me of that time against the Wallabies, when he did the big draw and pass.
Yeah, went through the dummy and went.
Yeah. It was very reminiscent of the big fella hanging out there.
This coming weekend, Super Rugby. Highlanders versus Crusaders. Highlanders at home. Crusaders obviously favourites with the bookies everywhere they go. Where do you see this one going?
I'll go the Crusaders. I think they showed enough. We did have this conversation this time last year around discipline, and Bryn promised there would be improvement, but it took about 4 weeks. So I'm feeling Razor would have run a hard ruler over a few penalties, and they'll be better. They won't be giving so many opportunities, I don't think, this week. Please just say you back your team, mate.
I'll back my team.
Great.
I think hopefully we'll come back.
We've got another how many weeks of this?
Oh no! Just own it. Can you just say, yeah, Crusaders, move on, next one? That should be his quick fire question.
Okay, we're not talking about the Crusaders. Move on to the next one. Okay, Blues versus Hurricanes. Bryn?
It's in Dunedin. Just been moved to Dunedin, eh?
Saturday night. Good prep.
I will go. You got to go Blues. Yeah,
I'll go Blues.
That's pretty good then. Crusaders 2-0. And the Blues probably with their first win.
Hopefully.
This show's going to be a relatively happy one next week. Something like that. So, of course, as ever, catch all of this rugby on Sky Sport, all of the reaction to this on rugbypass.com, all of the talking points both in Northern and Southern Hemisphere rugby. From me, Ross Karl, James Parsons here in the Auckland studio, down in the Queenstown bubble, the Crusaders, Bryn Hall looking for more switch plays this weekend from Bryn so we can play more of that action the following weekend. Thanks very much for joining us once again on the Aotearoa Rugby Pod here. We'll catch you next week. Mā te wā.